The new TRON film is Disney's big holiday movie spectacular, which means that it gets a movie tie-in game to go with it. But in a season of quality titles, TRON is far from a blockbuster game, though it does have some saving graces.
In Max, behind the screen, things are getting intense.
TRON Evolution bridges the gap between the original 1982 film and the upcoming sequel. You play as a system monitor who is trying to stop Clue's rise to power. The story is interesting in that it expands on the universe and answers what happened to Flynn. Also, that hot chick from House does all her own voice work. If only she looked even half as hot as she does in real life. The world looks pretty dope at first, though the constant blue neon lights get tiresome after a few levels. Eventually the game does mix it up a little, but one level of green and one level of orange are hardly a varied aesthetic. The animations are stiff most of the time, preventing the more spectacular moves from looking as good as they should. TRON features 3D support for those of you getting fancy new TVs this year. The frame rate drop is really noticeable with it on, and the 3D effects do little to change the game, only making the characters seem like they're floating off the actual world. And the cutscenes aren't even in 3D at all. The majority of TRON is a third-person action game, focused heavily on platforming and combat. There's a lot of parkour-style acrobatics throughout, with your character running on walls and leaping over computer terminals. The majority of the levels basically boil down to find the only glowing thing in the dark, grayscale world and run at it. The combat is a mix between melee attacks and light disc throws. There are some cool combos you can pull off and some special moves, but the combat devolves into button mashing. Playing on hard is the only way the game forces you to develop a strategy, but even then, most of the time you're just hitting the attack button as fast as possible. In addition to the combat and wall running, you can also jump into the light cycle and light tank. These sequences are sprinkled throughout the game. The light cycles are cool, though I wish there was more than just escape sequences that limit you to a walled-in track. The light tank is worthless though. It's clunky, slow, and boring. Multiplayer is where the game finally feels like TRON. You can compete in some deathmatch-style grid games and even light cycle-based events. The 3D light cycle tournaments are fun and challenging, though the free-for-alls get really hectic. The maps that are too small for the cycles are far less exciting, feeling more like the button-mashing single-player mode. TRON Evolution is barely a TRON game. It's a repetitive cyberpunk Prince of Persia. All the cool things you'd expect in a TRON game are restricted to the limited multiplayer modes. If you want to find out what happens between the two films, then you at least get a bit of a story here. And if the developers keep expanding the multiplayer with DLC like they're already doing, then this game could be worth a purchase eventually. For more info on TRON Evolution, visit IGN.com.